Right now, in cell therapy clinics across the globe, we're dealing with basically a biological hostage situation.
Yeah, that's a pretty intense way to put it, but it's true.
I mean, it is, right?
Yep.
Because the very cells that can cure a patient's leukemia are, well, they're the exact same cells that might kill them.
Exactly.
And for decades, clinical directors have been forced to,
Yeah.
negotiate this really impossible compromise. Because if you're managing these outcomes, you want the graft versus leukemia effect, the GVL.
Right. You want the newly transplanted immune system actively hunting down that residual cancer.
Exactly. But you inevitably get graft-versus-host disease, or GvHD, as just, well, part of the package. Those same donor cells end up attacking the patient's healthy organs.
Which is obviously the worst case scenario.
So today, we are analyzing an 11-slide pitch deck from Genemedi that, well, it claims to have completely rewritten the terms of that negotiation.
It's a huge claim.
It is. So if you are a clinical director managing transplant outcomes, or, a biotech executive analyzing supply chains, or even just an innovator building cell therapeutics, this deep dive is going to evaluate what could be a massive paradigm shift.
Yeah, it's an incredibly ambitious set of claims to evaluate.
It really is.
Because we are looking at this technical presentation outlining their advanced immunomagnetic cell separation technology. And the core proposition here is about moving the whole industry away from generalized immunosuppression and toward highly targeted ex vivo graft engineering.
Ex vivo, meaning outside the body before it even gets to the patient.
Right. They are arguing that they have built the infrastructural backbone necessary to successfully decouple GvHD from GVL at a true commercial scale.
And our mission today is to objectively test that claim, for you. We need to look closely at the mechanical feasibility, the workflow disruptions, and critically, the health economics of adopting this platform.
Right, because Genemedi positions itself as an innovative solutions provider for both therapeutics and diagnostics.
Turning to slide 1, the title is Advanced Graft Regeneration, and this highlights that core value proposition you just mentioned.
Yeah, decoupling the two effects via immunomagnetic separation.
It's basically like, historically, GvHD and GVL have been a package deal. It's like trying to hire a highly aggressive security team to fight off intruders in your house.
Yeah.
The leukemia, but unfortunately, that same security team ends up just, trashing your own house in the process.
That's a great analogy. And biologically speaking, separating that therapeutic benefit from the fatal risk that has been the holy grail of hematopoietic stem cell transplantation for decades.
Which brings us to the company behind this. Moving to the next slide, slide 2, we get a brief company overview of Genemedi.
Right. And what stands out here is they aren't just presenting some abstract academic concept.
No, they're pitching a product.
Exactly. They are positioning themselves as that infrastructural backbone. They want to provide the picks and shovels, the tools needed to actually make this precision engineering possible at scale for clinics everywhere.
But to really understand why these tools are needed so badly, we have to look at the raw supply chain.
Yeah.
Now on slide 3, we see this visual of a scale balancing the vital GVL effect against the fatal risk of GvHD.
And they break down the 3 donor types here, which is the crucial context.
Right. You have autologous, which is your own cells,
Yeah.
safe, but lacks that GVL cancer-fighting power.
Right, because your own immune system already failed to spot the cancer.
Exactly. Then there's allogenic, which is a fully matched donor, great balance but strictly limited availability. And finally, haploidentical, which is a 50% matched family member.
Like a parent or a sibling.
Yeah. So my question here is, if matched allogenic donors offer that balanced efficacy, why not just focus all our biotech resources on, expanding those matched donor registries? Why engineer half matches?
Well, it comes down to the harsh reality of clinical logistics and supply chains.
How so?
Because waiting for a perfect match through a registry often means the patient literally runs out of time. The leukemia does not pause while you search global databases.
Yeah.
So haploidentical donors, because they are almost instantly available within a family, they are a crucial necessity, but only if that severe GvHD risk can be managed.
Which sets up the core problem. Turning to slide 4, they call this the haploidentical paradox.
Yes, the paradox.
The goal is this curative immune reset using that 50% matched donor. The paradox is that while you need the donor's stem cells to rebuild the blood system, you also inherit their mature T cells.
And those mature T cells instantly recognize the recipient's tissues as foreign.
Right. It's a tragic irony. The very cells meant to save the patient become the primary barrier to success.
Exactly. So the clinical mandate and what the rest of this presentation is trying to solve is how to neutralize those mature donor T cells without destroying the restorative power of the broader graft itself.
Which leads us to how things are done today versus what they're proposing.
Moving to the next slide, slide 5, we see the status quo, which is PTCI, compared against Genomedi's precision engineering.
Right. PTC stands for post-transplant cyclophosphamide. It's basically a blunt chemical destruction, right? It kills all dividing cells indiscriminately, requires ongoing pharmacological immunosuppression, and risks opportunistic infections.
Yeah, it's very harsh. You're using a generic chemical inside the patient's body to wipe things out after the graft is already in.
Whereas this precision filtering selectively removes only the alloreactive T cells ex vivo, leaving stem cells undamaged.
And it virtually eliminates severe GvHD up front, which naturally accelerates immune reconstitution.
Let me push back on this, though, playing devil's advocate for a second.
Sure, go ahead.
Because PTC is an established, well-understood chemical protocol. Isn't it incredibly risky for a hospital to abandon a known, low-cost chemical for, well, a highly complex ex vivo mechanical filtering process?
It's the immediate operational question every hospital board asks. The upfront capital expenditure for magnetic columns and proprietary reagents has to be higher than a generic drug.
Exactly. So how do they justify it?
You have to reframe the true cost of PTC. The presentation argues that you can't just look at the reagent cost. You have to evaluate the total economic episode of care.
Meaning the downstream clinical burden.
Yes. The cost of PTC includes extended intensive care unit stays while a wiped-out immune system recovers. It includes treating massive secondary fungal or viral infections because the patient has zero innate immunity left.
Ah, I see.
And, the lifelong financial burden of managing chronic GvHD. So, ex vivo filtering isn't just cleaner, it accelerates immune recovery, changing the entire economic profile for the hospital by saving bed days.
That makes sense. But it only works if the actual mechanics hold up. So let's look at the science. Now on slide 6, we get into the physics of precision.
This is where it gets really fascinating. They use magnetic nanobead depletion.
Right. So delicate progenitor CD34 plus stem cells and NK cells pass through this column completely unharmed, zero stem cell toxicity. But the harmful alloreactive cells, like the TCR alpha beta positive T cells, get trapped by magnetic forces.
And they achieve a staggering 4 to 5 log reduction of those targeted cells.
It's like the ultimate VIP nightclub bouncer. You use this targeted magnetic field to flawlessly pull the troublemakers out of a massive crowd, pin them to the wall, and let the VIPs, the stem cells, just stroll right through the front doors.
That is highly accurate. And for clinical directors, that 4 to 5 log metric is crucial.
Because it's 99.999% depletion.
Exactly. It represents automated, reliable consistency. Historically, graft prep was kind of an unpredictable biological art form. This turns it into a precise, quantifiable physics equation.
Which gives clinicians crazy levels of control. Turning to slide 7, they introduce this customization dashboard.
This changes the entire role of the clinician.
Totally. It lists specific cellular populations. On the enrich or keep side, you have CD34 for stem cells, CD133, CD14, CD56, which is vital for innate immunity, and CD25.
And then on the deplete side,
They target CD3, TCR alpha beta, which specifically causes GvHD, CD19, CD45RA, CD8, and CD4. It's literally like an audio engineer's mixing board.
that's exactly how to think of it.
Right, because with PDC, you just turn the master volume down on the whole immune system. But here, clinicians can slide individual faders up and down to isolate specific instruments.
Yes. They are no longer just administering a prepackaged treatment. They are becoming bespoke graft engineers. They can dial in the exact immune profile needed for that specific patient. By capping CD56, for example, the patient gets immediate innate immunity on day 1.
That is wild, and they boil all this complexity down beautifully. Moving to the next slide, slide 8, we get the precision graft equation.
A masterclass in B2B communication.
It really is. It reads CD34 plus stem cells, which equals zero toxicity, PLS NK, and gamma delta T cells, meaning high GVL minus TCR alpha beta and CD19 cells, which ensures low GvHD equals the ideal graft.
For a B2B audience, this simple equation is the ultimate value proposition.
Because it makes a wildly complex biological process seem so elegantly simple.
Right. It summarizes the clinical endpoints, low toxicity, high disease-fighting power, low rejection risk, in a format that investors and hospital boards can immediately grasp without needing a PhD in immunology.
Okay, so that's the theory and the pitch. How does it work in practice? Now on slide 9, we get the step-by-step protocol. It's a 4-stage workflow.
Let's walk through it. Stage 1 is mobilization.
Right. Stem cells are moved from the donor's bone marrow to the blood via GCSF. Stage 2 is apheresis and engineering.
This is where they apply those nanobeads to keep CD56 and CD34 and remove the bad actors.
Then stage 3 is conditioning, where the patient undergoes regimens to prepare their body. And finally, stage 4 is infusion of the engineered graft.
So looking at that workflow, from an administration standpoint, where do you see the disruption?
Honestly, it's stage 2. I mean, implementing that ex vivo engineering step seems like the biggest hurdle compared to the old way.
It definitely is the most intensive shift for the lab, but the justification comes from the outcome of step 4.
The infusion.
Well, specifically what happens after, accelerated patient recovery. Because the graft is so clean and innate immunity is preserved, patients experience drastically shorter hospital stays.
Right, faster engraftment.
Exactly. They aren't waiting in sterile isolation for weeks. And for healthcare systems globally that are facing severe bed shortages, that operational win vastly outweighs the lab disruption.
And it seems like this isn't just for a small handful of patients either. Turning to slide 10, they list the clinical indications, and it really proves this isn't just a niche tool for leukemia.
No, it expands their total addressable market massively.
They highlight 4 major disease classes. First, hematologic cancers like AML and ALL. Second, hemoglobinopathies like sickle cell and beta thalassemia.
That's a huge one. Enabling safe haploidentical transplants for genetic disorders by eliminating TCR alpha beta is a game changer.
Definitely. Third is immunodeficiencies like SCID. And fourth, this one surprised me, refractory infections like CMV or EBV.
Yes, using CD45RA depleted memory T-cell add-backs.
Right. They use those to clear viruses without a LORI activity. It's incredible. It proves this is a foundational platform for treating complex systemic disorders, not just cancer.
And by proving efficacy across genetic blood disorders and viral infections, Genimedi makes their technology indispensable to a much wider range of specialists.
Which brings us to the actual market traction. Moving to the final slide, slide 11, we see the global adoption metrics.
The numbers that prove it's a scaling standard of care.
Exactly. They're citing roughly 2,200 procedures a year in Europe, 1,800 in North America, and 1,500 in Asia-Pacific. That's over 5,500 annual procedures globally.
That is significant volume for such advanced processing.
Yeah. And the slide ends with a direct call to action, framing Genimedi as the premier partner for raw materials, conjugates, and magnetic columns for cell therapy labs worldwide.
Positioning themselves as the essential vendor.
Right. So looking at those 5,500 procedures, I have to ask you, is the era of blunt force chemical cell therapy officially dead?
I would say the tipping point has absolutely been reached. Yeah. With Europe leading through centralized cell processing and North America rapidly integrating this into major clinical trials, precision filtration is aggressively replacing the chemical suppression of the past.
Wow. So to synthesize everything we've covered in this deep dive,
Yeah.
Genetides immunomagnetic cell separation technology offers just this unprecedented level of control.
It really does.
It takes the hazardous tightrope walk of haploidentical transplants and turns it into a scalable, safe, and highly effective B2B solution.
And for you listening, whether you are managing a clinical lab or strategizing a biotech portfolio, adopting these customizable platforms is no longer just a scientific ideal.
Right.
It is a competitive and operational imperative. If you don't transition to ex vivo engineering, you'll be left behind.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final, slightly provocative thought to ponder.
Oh, let's hear it.
Well, we've spent this entire time talking about how we can successfully edit an immune system with 99.999% precision to cure cancer and severe blood disorders. Right? So how soon will this exact diagnostic dashboard approach be used to preemptively reboot the immune systems of patients suffering from non-lethal chronic autoimmune diseases?
That is a fascinating application to consider.
Right. Are we looking at the future cure for things like MS or lupus? Imagine just running a patient's blood through that magnetic column to strip out the specific cells attacking their own body and then giving them their healthy immune system right back.
It would completely revolutionize autoimmune care.
Exactly. It's a massive question about the future and definitely something to keep an eye on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.